All right, hey guys. So I wanted to show you guys the CAD version of the exhaust for the CPAP exhaust we're going to use on the 2.4 that I created. So the whole point of this being made was that I never found a solution that I was quite happy with that kind of fit the whole aesthetic of the V2.4 while also supported a Voron HEPA filter and carbon pellets. I do like the idea of like a Nevermore still being here, but I kind of wanted another solution, and so this is kind of my answer to all of this. All right, so the way that this kind of works is that if I hide these panels here, you can see that we have a CPAP right here connected with I've got an adapter. So this is going to be a little adapter that the tube goes on top of, and this adapter connects to the CPAP. I found out that the CPAP is like two injection molded pieces, so this exit hole isn't really circular, it's more oval, so I wanted to make an adapter for that. And then I've got a tube clamp just in case it ever or to ensure that it never migrates off. But yeah, we've got an enclosure that has a holder for the CPAP. This is going to be held in with some features in the bottom, and we're going to attach it with two big old M5 screws to this back extrusion. We're also going to use some some double-sided tape to hold the bottom piece to the back panel here. And you'll see all of this in the assembly video that I'm about to show. And the other part that you will see is that there is a magnetic cartridge tray here that is refillable and easily accessible. So it's got all the fans right here. You're gonna put in a Roomba HEPA filter that I found that's really cheap that you can get on Amazon. Links will be in below. And then here you can put in the Nevermore carbon pellets. And I calculated out the volume, and this volume is equal to that of the Nevermore, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we're going to be using a crap ton of magnets here to attach it all. Whoops, sorry. You're going to use roughly 16 here. You don't need all 16. You probably only need 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side, so 8 total. But I use 16 just in case maybe vibrations or whatever it tends to get to it. I know there's going to be a solid fit. So yeah, you don't need to use all of them, but I left them there just in case you needed them. So that's pretty much it. This is going to be an item that I'm going to show you how to organize all in Orca Slicer. Yes, another thing I wanted to include is just the fact that I did include a muffler just for the CPAP system, because we all know that they can be kind of loud, and this new exhaust grill will support the muffler. I did get this muffler designed from someone on Printables, and I wanted to include their name here. Thank you, individual, for making this muffler. I did take your design and then updated it so that it could use M2x10 inset thread insert nuts. So, thread forming screws. So it'll be just really simple one-time assembly type of thing. And I really like it. And it ended up fitting perfectly. So thank you. So that's pretty much it. This is going to be an item that I'm going to show you how to organize all in Orca Slicer, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble it, and then afterwards I'm going to show you any the small bit of code that you'll need to add somewhere in your printer CFG file. Hopping right into Orca Slicer, I'm going to show you guys my settings and what the orientation I recommend for all of the parts. So I've split this up into 3 parts where you will be able to kind of have equal plating for all of this. So for these parts, these are going to be the black parts here. So this is going to include the actual like cage that we're going to use we're going to install everything into. This is going to be the board or backer plate, and this is going to be the fan shroud here. So I do also have an option. I didn't mention this earlier, but there is an option for a single fan if you rather have a single fan setup. So I have that also in the description, so don't worry about that. And then, so the only thing that I needed to point out with this item is that for this item, we will need tree supports. And if you don't know how to use how to add tree supports for an individual item, just go over to Objects here from Global, select the item, and then go to Supports and you hit this check mark. I also recommend you copy down my support settings, because my support settings make PTEG and or PETG and ASA parts really easy to remove. So here are those settings here, and you guys can pause here if you want. But moving on to the red accent parts, this is the orientation I recommend you put everything in. So here is that top red cover, and I recommend you put it in this orientation. Even though it seems more better to put it on this back side, it won't really be the best, because we will need a flat surface on these corners here to ensure that the screws hold them down properly. So that's really simple. And again, for this part, go to supports, enable the supports. The other item that might need a support is just this little tube adapter. Hit the supports right there. All right, moving on to the ASA parts. Lastly, I wanted to mention that this piece will definitely need no supports, but it's gonna need a brim. So I highly recommend you add a brim to this piece. And if you don't know, again, object, and then you go to the specific part, go down here to brim, and then we're gonna do an outer brim right here. I'm gonna make this about 7 millimeters because this is a very thin section hitting the plate. So yeah, make sure to have that. Also, this whole design is kind of irrespective to what kind of plates you have. If you want to use textured sheets, by all means, go ahead, use a textured sheet. If you don't, then you can use a smooth sheet. All of this should work. It's completely your preference. But yeah, just make sure that you have that setting there. And then everything else should be good to go. Oh yeah, let me also recommend quality settings. So what we're gonna need, if you want to copy down my quality settings, feel free to include this into your build. I don't have any sort of settings for the other slicers, Cura or Super Slicer or Prusa Slicer. Apologies for that, but if you can copy down just the walls that you'll need. I used 4 wall perimeters, 5 top and bottom layers, and I think I used 20% infill. You can use whatever infill pattern you want. This won't be an ultra structural part, but recommend you use these settings. And I've shown you my support settings, and we won't be using any of the other stuff. So, and yeah, let's get on to the build section. You will notice that this exhaust grill is going to be an older version. I recorded this assembly before I had the idea to add a muffler. So if you see the exhaust grill and if you don't see the 2 muffler pieces, just know that that is a part of the assembly and that will be shown later on. So if you have this, that's good. That's the correct version. All right, let's get into the actual build.
All right, so here are all the parts once they've been printed out. One thing I really recommend is that you just go through, remove all the tree supports in the areas that really don't need it, and take your time with doing this. Obviously, this is one of the parts that had a lot of tree supports, so take your time when you're taking all this stuff off. And I think this part actually came out really well, really smooth. One of the other items that had a tree support was this guy, depending on how you oriented it, but I think it all came out really nice, really smooth. After you've taken off all the tree supports, just look it over, make sure there's no stringing, no weird bits, and if there's any string, take a little heat gun, or you can even take a little lighter to it and just heat up all the fuzz. And yeah, this is pretty much it all. Also, a couple of the parts have now been upgraded. So I upgraded this back piece so that it can have a couple holes here to fit a muffler. And I have edited a file by the guy I will name up here, but I've edited a muffler file, and this muffler looks super good. I like the way it all shines and fits within this piece, and I modified all the holes in here so that they can be threaded or self-threading bolts. Yeah, using these types of bolts. I really like these types of bolts, and I have a ton of them, and it's gonna fit in really well. Just gotta place this in, put these 2 pieces for the back plate, and then just thread, use the threading screws up here and here, and then you should be good. Now the muffler and this piece are gonna be 2 different pieces, and you do kind of have to shove this inner muffler piece in, and once you shove it in, you should be able to rotate it using this little indexing point here. And it is a pretty easy fix, easy part, and yeah. We're gonna take this guy and install all of the heat press inserts into them, and there's gonna be roughly 8 for this guy and 5 heat press inserts needed for this guy. So get all of that ready, and I will meet you back with that done. Okay, so we got all of the heat threaded inserts installed here, both on the front side and the back side. They went in fairly smoothly, and same thing for the front plate here. The next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need to take your M2 by 10 thread forming screws, and we are going to also need the board and a few of our other items. So the other items we're going to need is this top plate. We're going to need our cartridge. We're also going to need our little hose clamp adapters. And so this is the adapter, this is the clamp. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually attach all of the items that need these thread forming screws right here. The kind of tool you're going to need is a 1.5 millimeter hex key. And let's just go ahead and install those now. So one of the other things that I recommend you do, and maybe you could do this before you even install this, is that you kind of just test fit everything and see how does it slide, you know. When it's fully inserted, it should be about that much gap, right? Ideally, it could be super duper flat, but I'm just imagining that there might be like a little nick like that on the corner, and you can take a deburring tool like this, which is what I did, and just knock off the corners like that. I had a lot of weird PA issues, so knock off the corners in that manner. And when you sit it in, it should be good and nice and easily flowy. Like it feels tight and secure, but easily flowy. You'll also want to take your HEPA filter that I'll link down below and just kind of slide this in. Make sure this fits in. That fits in really well. And then once you put the HEPA filter and the whole assembly in, it'll fit a lot more tight and snug. It won't really want to slide in and out as easily. So there is that. Yeah, so there is that. The other thing you'll want to do is take your CPAP, just slide it in. You know, make sure that this thing is nice and really in there. And it feels super secure, really no wobble from this installation point. And then the other thing you can do as well, put the cables through, put the board on top, and align it all. And if you hold the cap, as in you hold the bottom plate down, you shouldn't be able to move the CPAP at all. It should be really nice and snug and secure in there. So there is this portion of the installation done. So one of the next steps that we need to do is actually take the CPAP hose and cut it off on both ends. I just used normal scissors like this and just chopped off the ends very carefully and made them as straight and nice as possible. You can take the ends and just chuck them. We won't be installing the CPAP just yet. We're going to do this in a little bit. But what we can do is just kind of ready up the CPAP so that it's all good. So one of the first things we're going to do is take this little CPAP hose adapter, place it on top, and then we're going to tighten this thing down. One thing you'll notice is that the CPAP hose is actually not even a straight circle. It's more of an oval on the actual CPAP. That's why we needed this sort of hose clamp design. And we can test it by it being, you know, nice and tight. Don't over tighten it, just tighten it enough where this piece won't turn like that. You know, you'll want to be careful when you're moving this thing around, but you want this CPAP thing to not move around. So I put it in tight, just like that. It's not going to move around. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take our one cut end of CPAP. We're going to place the tube, take it over, and we're going to gently slide on the CPAP tube and get it nice and pushed up all the way to the edge. Next up, we're going to take our little CPAP clamp, put it all the way up to the edge, and even loosen this up a little bit. Put this thing all the way at the edge, just like this. As you see it, you can see a little piece of the tip sticking out, and clamp this thing down. This one you can go full clamp because you don't ever want this to move. And here we go. Here we have this one sub-assembly done. Okay, for this section, what we're gonna do is we're gonna install the magnets into all of these areas. I'll give a link in the description for this. I think it's like 120 pack of these round magnets. I forget the dimensions. I think they're 6 by 3 millimeters in diameter, something like that. So what we're gonna need is we're gonna need some epoxy. If you have some CA glue, that works too. A little piece of a sticky note just to put all the epoxy, and some sort of scratching device. I can use this like Swiss Army knife, or if you have some tweezers, use that. And what we're gonna do is, as you can see, we're just gonna go into this hole, scratch up this hole, as you can see there. And what that does is that is going to allow us the ability to get a better seal with all of the epoxy. We're going to do this all here. And then do the same for some of the magnetic pieces, for the magnets. What you'll do is you'll just take the magnet, just scratch its top and bottom surface, just like this. It doesn't need to be much, just a little bit of a scratch. And once you have that, we're gonna continue on. Alright, so once you've got all of your magnets scratched up, let's see if that focuses. I think you can see it. I've got both edges scratched up, just so there's a little bit of purchase. Remember to keep some gloves on because we're dealing with epoxy. Take your epoxy, press out a little bit. You won't need much, but just press out a little bit. Take it, put the cover back on. Do that. I like these sharp-ended Q-tips. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix these boys up, just like this. And I will show you a clever little way that we can put the epoxies in, or the actual items in on this side too. But we'll do this one part first, and then we will do everything else in just a second. So we've got all the epoxy in on this, and we'll stack all of the magnets like this on the one side, and we will just press them in one by one. So yeah, here are the magnets fully installed, and what you'll do after, just flip this, take this, flip this over, and put some weight on it, and pretty much just let it sit for a couple minutes. After this sets, we're going to do the magnets inside of this guy, and we should be good to go. So let's do that. Alright, so I waited about 20, maybe 25 minutes, and as you can see, when this was once a liquid, it is now fully bonded onto one another, and this can help you tell whether or not this is all ready. So what we're going to do next is we're going to cut this and use this end to put some more epoxy on the inside of this piece. And what I did quickly off camera was I took each magnet and I just put it, I took the roll of magnets, just let it sit on top of the other magnet. And what we're going to do is going to be hopefully something pretty clever if it works out. But we're going to fill all of this with epoxy, and then we're going to carefully align all of these magnets so that they're concentric with all the other magnets. And we should just be able to drop this all in one go. And if we do it correctly, it should still be 100% level, just like it is now. But we're going to have to do it with the real thing. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm gonna mix some more epoxy, put it on here, put it in here, and then show you guys the finished product with the magnets inside and all of this pretty much ready. And once I get it done, what I'm gonna plan on doing is just flipping this over, obviously with this installed and all of the magnets installed, and putting a roll of filament over this and making sure that it's nice and stuck down. So we're gonna do that and we're gonna come back. As we wait for the glue to settle for our magnets, what we can do is take a piece of PTFE and cut it to about 6 inches. You don't need to be perfectly accurate with this. I'll show you guys how I'm using one of these tube cutter things. So just place the guy right there around the 6-inch mark. Cut it, and you get a nice clean cut. And that is our PTFE tube that we're going to use in just a second here. Alright, so we've got the item finally after the epoxy has been added on to the smaller magnets. And let's see. Okay, so that came out pretty easily, pretty good. I just wanted to show you all the magnets in there. They look pretty nice. Here it is. It goes in really nice and smooth, and I wanted to show you guys it is still flat. There's that same amount of a seam inside, so it's all good. And you know, you can double check it by just seeing if there's any sort of gap in here where my finger is. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but kind of to see where my finger is, and there isn't a gap in there. So yeah, feel free. It should pull out pretty easily and slap in really well. So okay, so for the next part, we're going to need some VHB tape, as you guys can see right here. And I also recommend that you get your M5 bolts ready. I didn't have exactly M5 by 10 bolts, so I used M5 by 12, and I just added a 1mm washer on both. You guys can show you that. I just recommend you guys keep that safe. So the places that we're going to put some VHB are along the bottom right here, and then one in the middle on the back on the bottom side here. And you can feel free if you want to put one right here, okay, but you don't need to. And then what we'll do next is we will remove a layer of the VHB very carefully. Just like that. And now we have our part ready. So next up is we'll go onto the printer and start doing some stuff there. Alright, so here's the printer. First thing I recommend you do is I recommend you take off the top panel, removing all the clips associated with that, and just put that to the side. I'm going to take a seat here, and the first thing I would recommend is you put these two M5 bolts. And the way that I recommend you do that is you just take your red printed piece, just like this, and you use it as like an alignment guide. You know, slide them into the same spot, and then you kind of have it in the right spot like that. Next thing I recommend is you actually just take your printer and flip it over. Alright, so we want the flat side facing towards us, and we want this lipped section up against this bottom area, just like that. And you can see all the holes do align. And the next part is we have our piece with our VHB attached. What we'll need to do is take our M5 bolts and put them right here and right back here. So let's do that. My M5 bolts do have enough room for a washer to be placed in, so I counterbored the holes so that a washer could fit. Just like this. So what you'll do, you'll take a 3mm hex key, and you will slowly try to guide this in without letting the VHB touch. So, you know, I put my hands underneath the VHB here so that they don't touch. And what you'll do is you'll just guide the M5 bolts in by hand. This part can be pretty tedious, so be patient, take your time, absolutely no rush. And once you get one hole in, slowly alright. I think I blocked that with my hand, but I got the two guys held in. Once it's held in, feel free to just press it on down and then re-tighten these screws. Sweet. So now we have this guy held in, and feel free to press it from the back side of the printer. And great. Now we have this part put on, and what we'll do next is we'll flip the printer up again and start from there.
Alright, so this is done kind of after the fact, but I have made a new back plate that has an addition for a muffler, for this muffler. And what we're going to do is we're going to install the new back plate, which is really, really easy to do. You know, we're just going to thread the CPAP tube and the filament tube up by it, and then just add two holes, or just add the two screws here and here. And then afterwards, what we're going to do is we have... let me get you in focus. We have two M2 by 10 self-tapping screws that I've inserted up at the top here, and you can see them shining right there. And what we'll do is that will match up right here. Right, and here that is fully assembled. It looks really neat, really good, and everything is in there working properly. All right, now we've got the whole system on. It's pretty good. Next thing we're going to want to do is take that little piece of PTFE that we cut, and we're going to have to thread it through this hole at the top, just like this. And then we'll have to guide it through that hole right there. So now we've got the little PTFE inside. It's guided through properly, and it's just sticking out the edge a little bit here. If you are having trouble taking it from here through here, feel free to just
back it all in. So push it in from this side and then slowly guide it in. One thing you just want to make sure is that there are no kinks in the cable so that the filament can go through really quickly and easily. And what you could even do is just take a little bit of filament and just, feed it through. Take a little filament and just feed it through and just see how smoothly it goes through, and it should come out the other side really easily without any sort of resistance. So there's that. Okay, for the next part, you're going to need these assortment of parts. So we've got the little tool board where we install the board onto this plate. We're going to need this top cover with 3 M3 by 12 bolts. Have your fans ready depending on which fan configuration you're going to want. And what we'll do next is we will take our filter, we'll have this side pointing down. Just slide that boy in just like that. That should fit comfortably. And then we're going to fill this up with some Nevermore carbon filter. So let's do that right now. So we got the Nevermore carbon filter installed, or the carbon stuff here. I recommend for your filter you leave the tab up, because once you put the fans on, it's going to be really hard to kind of reach this stuff. So next up, get 2 fans, and then these bolts are going to be M3 by 25s. And you're going to need I only used 4, but you can go up to have 8. That's why I recommended having 8, just handy. But I only used 4 here. And make sure the fans are pointing exhaust, right? So it's going to want to pull air from inside the system out through the filter. So make sure, test your fans to make sure that they're pulling air out like that. And get these 2 items up and installed. And we're going to leave the sub-assembly here and go back to the actual part. For this section, we're going to take our CPAP assembly that we've taken and that we have. And first thing first is you're going to take it and thread our CPAP tube through this hole in the top right. Just like that. And that should go fairly easily. Got it on in. We'll take this guy and place the CPAP in its little place just like that. And it should feel very nice and secure. Pull the cable so it's not too taut. And there's that. As for the cables, they will sit right here on this area. And there should be there's a little cutout right here, so the cables can just rest right there. And what we'll do is we'll take this piece, and all you really need to do is kind of just align it. Make sure you don't get any of the cables pinched. And just guide it all in. And it fits on, just like that. Might hear a little clip, and now it's secure. Just double check that your cables are all good and not pinched. And this top piece is secure. What you can do next is plug this cable into this side of the CPAP. Just like that. And you can now install this top piece cover just like this, and then you'll use this guy, last bolt, plug it all in. Should be good, should be nice. And then finally we're going to take our whole assembly, cartridge assembly here, make sure this guy is staying up top, and you're just going to slide that in. Magnets hold it nice and tight. And then remember to plug all of these onto your MCU and you should be good.
All right, congratulations on finishing the entire build. I wanted just to round off this entire build with just showing you some very simple G code here to show you what you should be doing and how to kind of install the code for all of this, this little exhaust. So what you'll need to do is just copy my code that you have here. You can actually change this item, which will be the fan speed. I like to keep it around 60. I feel like anything more just kind of gets annoying and kind of loud. I use my printer in a room where noise is kind of sensitive. So yeah, feel free about that. Yeah, but just add this little bit of code here. You can see I have exhaust fan 1 and exhaust fan 2. It just depends on how you placed it. And you can use any sort of pin. I recommend fan pins, but you can use heater pins or anything that can support 24 volts. So there is that. And then just make sure to install the negative cable into one of these addressable pins here, which if you use a fan port, it's just as simple as plugging it in. And looking up the associated pin. And if you have a Manta and you use the heater pins like I did, feel free to just use this. So yeah, that is about it. Congratulations, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this exhaust and how it's going for you all. I really like it. It's been going well. So yeah, just let me know and let me see your guys' builds. All right, I'll see you.